The universe is a big, quiet place. Most of the time, it feels empty and cold. But not today. Today, everything would change. Jae-hwan pressed his hand against the thick glass of the observation deck. Outside, space stretched like a black canvas dotted with tiny white lights. The Korean ship moved closer, its shape unlike anything humans had ever seen before. It looked more like a living crystal than a machine, shifting, changing, breathing with an alien rhythm. Humanity had been waiting for this moment for decades. First contact. Two species meeting for the first time. No one knew exactly what would happen. The research vessel Horizon carried a team of 20 carefully selected humans. Scientists, linguists, diplomats, and military experts, all chosen for their ability to stay calm under pressure. Jae-hwan was the youngest member of the team, a brilliant xenobiologist who had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. "They're getting closer," whispered Dae-sung, the team's lead communications specialist. His fingers moved quickly over a complex set of translation devices. Years of research had produced these machines, tools designed to help humans communicate with beings who might think completely differently. Jae-hwan remembered the day he was selected for the mission. Thousands of scientists had competed for these positions. Months of tests, psychological evaluations, and intense training had narrowed the list. When his name was called, his family had cried. His mother had hugged him so tight he could barely breathe. "Don't be afraid," she had said. "You are representing all of humanity." Now, watching the alien ship approach, those words echoed in his mind. The Korean vessel was massive, at least 10 times the size of the human research ship. Its surface looked like moving glass, with colors that changed from deep blue to silver, then to a soft green. No sharp edges, no visible engines, just smooth, fluid movement that seemed to break all known laws of physics. Dae-sung checked his equipment again. His hands were steady, but Jae-hwan could see a small drop of sweat on his forehead. Everyone was nervous. This was more than a scientific mission. This was humanity's first real chance to prove they belonged in the galactic community. "Communication protocols are ready," Dae-sung said, his voice calm and professional. "All translation matrices are online and calibrated." Jae-hwan nodded. Years of preparation had led to this moment. Thousands of linguists and computer experts had worked to create communication systems that could potentially bridge the gap between two completely different species. The ship's captain, a woman named Elena Rodriguez, stood at the center of the observation deck. She wore a crisp blue uniform with patches representing the United Earth Space Exploration Agency. Her face was calm, but her eyes showed a mix of excitement and tension. "Prepare for first contact," she announced. Her voice was steady, but it carried through the entire deck. Outside, the Korean ship began to change shape. Its crystal-like surface started to move, creating what looked like massive, delicate wings. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Jae-hwan felt his heart beating faster. This was it. Humanity's first real meeting with an alien civilization. Whatever happened next would change everything, not just for him, but for every human who had ever looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone in the universe. No one could have predicted what would happen next. The first Korean entered the human ship like a living piece of art. It wasn't a creature in any way humans had ever imagined. The being looked like a moving sculpture made of crystal and light, with edges that seemed to blur and change shape with every movement. Dae-sung's translation device clicked to life. A soft, musical sound filled the room. Part language, part music, part something completely unknown. "Greetings, humans of Earth," the creature said. Its voice sounded like wind moving through glass wind chimes. "I am called Resonance of Infinite Curiosity." Jae-hwan stepped forward. He had practiced this moment 1,000 times in training simulations, but nothing could prepare him for the real thing. The Korean stood nearly 3 meters tall, its body shifting colors like a living prism. Where humans had solid forms, this being seemed more like a liquid light that could think and speak. 2 more Koreans followed. They moved together, almost like parts of the same organism. Their bodies connected and separated in ways that made no sense to human eyes. Jae-won realized they might be communicating in ways humans couldn't even understand. Captain Rodriguez stood at the front of the human delegation. She wore her official uniform, dark blue with golden patches showing her rank and mission. Her hand was steady, but Jae-won could see a tiny muscle jumping in her jaw. She was nervous. "Welcome to the horizon," she said carefully. Each word was clear and slow. "We are honored to meet you." The lead Quarian, resonance of infinite curiosity, moved closer. Its crystalline body seemed to breathe, expanding and contracting in a rhythm that felt almost alive. One of its many appendages reached out. It looked like a mix between a hand and a complex piece of living glass. "We have watched your species for many cycles," the Quarian said. The translation device made the words sound smooth and calm. "Your potential is interesting." Interesting. Such a simple word, but coming from an alien species that had been studying humanity for decades, it felt like both a compliment and a challenge. Jae-won noticed something strange. The Quarians kept changing shape. Not big changes, just tiny shifts. An edge would become softer. A color would change from deep blue to silver. It was like they were constantly thinking, constantly processing information. Dae-sung stepped forward. As the lead communication specialist, this was his moment. "We are eager to learn about your culture," he said. His Korean accent was soft, but clear. The Quarians looked at each other. Their communication happened so fast that the human translation devices could barely catch it. A series of color changes, slight movements, something that might have been a conversation happening in milliseconds. "We will share," resonance of infinite curiosity finally said. "But first, we wish to understand you, your biology, your systems, your potential." The word potential hung in the air. It didn't sound like a simple word anymore. It sounded like a question, a challenge, a warning. Jae-won felt a chill run down his spine. Something in the way the Quarian said potential made him uncomfortable. It wasn't a friendly word. It was a scientific word. The way a researcher might look at a new specimen. The observation deck was silent. 20 humans, 3 Quarians, thousands of years of separate evolution meeting in one moment. Nobody knew what would happen next. Jae-won's hand unconsciously moved to his pocket. Inside was a small container, a specimen he had brought, thinking it might be an interesting demonstration of Earth's biodiversity. He had no idea how that small container would change everything. The room felt different after the Quarians arrived. The air seemed to vibrate with tension. Jae-won knew this was more than just a meeting. This was humanity's first real chance to show what they were made of. Dr. Elena Rodriguez moved slightly to the side. Her eyes never left the Quarian visitors. She had spent years preparing for this moment, studying alien communication, learning about potential first contact scenarios. But nothing in her training could have prepared her for how strange these beings looked. Resonance of infinite curiosity tilted its crystal-like body. The movement was both smooth and jerky, like something between a dance and a computer calculation. "We wish to understand," the alien repeated. Jae-won stepped forward. In his hand, he held a small sealed container. Inside was something that would change everything. A simple specimen from Earth that would reveal more about humanity than any speech or presentation ever could. "I want to show you something about our planet," Jae-won said. His voice was calm, but his heart was racing. The container held a Tarantula hawk wasp. To human eyes, it was just another insect, a predator. But Jae-won knew it was so much more. He activated a holographic display. The room filled with a 3-dimensional image of a desert landscape. Dry, hot, the kind of place where only the strongest survive. "This is a Tarantula hawk wasp," Jae-won explained. The hologram zoomed in, showing every detail of the insect's body. Its metallic blue-black color gleamed like polished metal. Its wings were folded tight against its body. The Quarians moved closer. Their crystal bodies shifted colors, from blue to silver to a strange green that seemed to pulse with light. Jae-hwan continued his explanation. This is a predator from our planet. It hunts tarantulas in a very specific way. The hologram changed. Now it showed the wasp hunting. Its movements were precise, calculated, brutal. First, the wasp would find a tarantula. It would attack with lightning speed. Its sting was designed to paralyze, not kill. The tarantula would remain alive, but unable to move. Then came the truly terrifying part. The wasp would lay its eggs inside the living spider. The spider would become a living nest, a host. When the wasp eggs hatched, the larva would eat the spider from the inside out. Dae-sung watched the Quarians carefully. Their color was changing faster now. Blues and greens mixed with strange silver tones that seemed to show emotion. This is how life works on our planet, Jae-hwan said simply. Not everyone survives. The strong eat the weak. Those who cannot adapt die. The room went silent. The Quarians were making sounds, not words, not language. Something between a vibration and a song. Their crystal bodies were moving in ways that looked like pure shock. Resonance of infinite curiosity spoke. Its voice sounded different now. Less calm. More afraid. You create organisms that do this, the alien asked. Jae-hwan smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a scientist who understood something fundamental about life. We don't create them, he said. They already exist. This is just how life works on our planet. The Quarians looked at each other. Their communication happened so fast that the human translation devices could barely catch it. Colors changed, shapes shifted. Something was happening. Something big. And nobody, not Jae-hwan, not Captain Rodriguez, not Dae-sung, had any idea what would happen next. The Tarantula hawk wasp continued to move in its sealed container, waiting, watching. A perfect predator from a planet full of perfect predators. The room went completely quiet. Resonance of infinite curiosity began to change. Its crystal body started to crack. Tiny lines appeared, like someone was breaking a glass sculpture from the inside. The color shifted rapidly. Blues, greens, silvers mixing together in a way that looked like pure fear. You intentionally allow such creatures to exist? The alien asked. Its voice sounded different now. No longer calm. No longer curious. Something else. Jae-hwan didn't understand what was happening. To him, the tarantula hawk wasp was just another part of Earth's complex ecosystem. Predators hunt. Some prey survive. Some don't. This was the way of life. Dae-sung moved closer to Jae-hwan. Something's wrong, he whispered. The other two Quarian diplomats began to move. Their bodies were changing shape faster now. What looked like crystal arms stretched and pulled. Colors became more intense. The room felt like it was getting smaller. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. Is everything okay? She asked. No response came. At least, not in words. The Quarians started to make sounds. Not language. Not communication. Something between a scream and a vibration. The sound went through the room like a wave. Some of the human team members covered their ears. Jae-hwan still held the container with the tarantula hawk wasp. He didn't understand why the aliens were reacting this way. On Earth, this was just normal life. Predators existed. Some were more brutal than others. We do not create these organisms, Jae-hwan tried to explain. They are part of our natural ecosystem. Every planet has its own balance. Resonance of infinite curiosity looked directly at Jae-hwan. Its crystal body was breaking more now. Cracks spread like a spider web. The colors were going crazy. Blues, greens, silvers mixing in ways that hurt to look at. Balance. The alien said. The word sounded strange, like it didn't understand what balance meant. Dae-sung checked his translation devices. Something was wrong with them. They were picking up emotions more than words. Fear, shock, something that went beyond simple communication. The Korean diplomats were changing. Their bodies were not solid anymore. They looked like they were melting. But not like water melts. More like something was pulling them apart from the inside. "We cannot," one of them said. Just those 3 words. "We cannot." Captain Rodriguez took a step back. Her military training had prepared her for many scenarios. First contact, potential conflicts, communication challenges. But this was something else. Jae-won realized something was very wrong. The aliens were not just scared. They were breaking. The Tarantula hawk Wasp continued to move in its container, calm, waiting, unaware that it was causing something much bigger than anyone could have predicted. Outside the ship's windows, space continued to move. Stars continued to shine. The universe kept spinning, unaware of the strange moment happening inside this small human research vessel. Something was about to change. Forever. Nobody moved for a long time. The Korean diplomats were changing. Their crystal bodies looked like they were falling apart, but not breaking. More like melting. More like something was pulling them from the inside. Jae-won realized something important. These aliens did not understand pain. Not like humans did. Dae-sung's translation device started working again. Bits and pieces of alien language came through. Broken. Confused. "Survival is not suffering," one Korean said. Another added, "Pain has no purpose." Captain Rodriguez looked at Jae-won. Her eyes said everything. Something big was happening. Something nobody had expected. The Tarantula hawk Wasp continued to move in its small container. It didn't know it was causing an entire alien civilization to rethink everything they knew about life. Resonance of infinite curiosity spoke. Its voice sounded different now. Weaker. More broken. "Your planet," the alien said, "creates life that destroys itself to survive." Jae-won nodded. "Yes," he said simply. "That's how evolution works on Earth." The room felt heavy. The Koreans were learning something fundamental about humanity, about life itself. On Earth, survival meant fighting, meant pain, meant doing whatever was necessary to live. Some creatures survived by being strong, some by being smart, some by being so brutal that nothing would dare attack them. The Tarantula hawk Wasp was a perfect example. It didn't just survive, it dominated. One of the other Korean diplomats tried to speak. Its body was changing color faster now. Blues and greens mixed together in ways that hurt to look at. "We do not understand," the alien said. "Survival should not hurt." Dae-sung stepped forward. He was a communication expert. He knew how to explain complex ideas simply. "On our planet," he said, "pain is sometimes how we grow, how we learn, how we become stronger." The Koreans looked at each other. Their communication happened so fast that human devices could barely catch it. Colors changed. Shapes shifted. Jae-won watched carefully. He was a scientist. This was more than a diplomatic meeting. This was a moment of true cultural exchange. The Tarantula hawk Wasp moved in its container, waiting, watching. A perfect predator from a planet full of perfect predators. Outside the ship's windows, space continued to move. Stars continued to shine. The universe kept spinning, unaware of the strange moment happening inside this small research vessel. Something was about to change. Forever. The Koreans were learning that not all life is gentle. Not all survival is easy. Some creatures survive by being more brutal than their enemies. And humanity was full of such creatures. Something was happening to the Koreans that no human had ever seen before. Resonance of infinite curiosity began to fall apart, not like a broken machine, more like a living thing losing its shape. Crystal pieces dropped to the floor. Each piece moved. Each piece seemed alive. "We cannot," the alien repeated. "We cannot understand." Jae-hwan watched in shock. The Korean diplomats were literally breaking down. Their bodies were becoming smaller, weaker. Something about the Tarantula hawk Wasp had destroyed them. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. "What's happening?" she asked. No one answered. Da Sung's translation device picked up strange sounds. Not words, not language. Something between a cry and a song. The sounds were full of fear, full of something humans had never heard from an alien species before. The Tarantula hawk Wasp continued to move in its container, calm, waiting, unaware that it was changing everything. "Your planet, resonance of infinite curiosity," said, "creates life that destroys to survive." Jae-hwan nodded. "Yes," he said simply. The alien's crystal body was now just small pieces on the floor. Each piece moved. Each piece seemed to be thinking, feeling, dying. "We do not understand pain," the alien said. "Pain is not a way to live." But humans knew different. Pain was how humans had survived. Pain was how humans had grown. Pain was how humans had conquered their own planet. The room felt heavy, quiet. Something big was happening. Outside the ship's windows, space continued to move. Stars continued to shine. The universe kept spinning, unaware of the strange moment happening inside this small research vessel. One of the other Korean diplomats tried to speak. Its body was now just small pieces, broken, falling apart. "Survival should not hurt," it said. Jae-hwan looked at the Tarantula hawk Wasp. Such a small creature, but so powerful, so perfect at surviving. The Koreans were learning something fundamental about humanity, about life itself. Not all survival is gentle. Not all life is kind. Some creatures survive by being more brutal than their enemies, and humanity was full of such creatures. The diplomatic room was silent now. The Korean diplomats were just small pieces on the floor, moving, thinking, dying. Something was about to change. Forever. The Korean diplomatic ship began to move. Not slowly, not carefully, but fast. Faster than anything humans had ever seen before. Jae-hwan watched in complete shock. The massive crystal-like vessel was running away, not preparing for battle, not sending a message, just leaving. "They're fleeing," Captain Rodriguez said. Her voice was calm, but her hands were shaking. Dae-sung checked the ship's communication systems. Nothing made sense. The Koreans were not sending any messages. They were not explaining their actions. They were simply running. The small container with the Tarantula hawk Wasp sat on the table. So small, so simple, yet it had done something no human weapon could ever do. It had scared an entire alien civilization away. The Horizon's computer began tracking the Korean ship. The speed was impossible. They were moving faster than light, faster than any known technology. Pure fear was driving them. "What just happened?" Jae-hwan asked. Nobody answered. The pieces of the broken Korean diplomats continued to move on the floor. Each piece seemed alive. Each piece seemed to be thinking, remembering the Tarantula hawk Wasp. Outside the ship's windows, space continued to move. Stars continued to shine. The universe kept spinning, unaware of the strange moment that had just happened. Da Sung's translation devices picked up small pieces of Korean communication. Broken, confused. "Pain," one piece said. "Survival hurts." Another piece added, "Humans are different." Captain Rodriguez looked at Jae-hwan. Her eyes showed many things. Confusion, surprise, something else, pride. Humanity had just done something no one expected. They had shown an alien civilization something fundamental about life. Survival is not always gentle. The Korean ship continued to move away, getting smaller, faster, disappearing into the darkness of space. One small container sat on the table. Inside, the Tarantula hawk Wasp continued to move, calm, waiting, unaware that it had just changed everything. News traveled fast. Within hours, Every known alien civilization heard about what happened. Humans had not conquered the galaxy with big weapons. They had done something worse. They had shown how brutal life could be. The Tarantula hawk wasp became a symbol, not just an insect. Something more, a message about humanity's true nature. Other alien species began to change how they looked at humans. No longer were humans just another young species. Now they were something else, something dangerous. Communication channels between alien civilizations lit up. Messages flew faster than light. Discussions happened in ways humans could never understand. Humans create life that hurts to survive, one message said. Another added, they do not fear pain. They use pain. The Quarian diplomatic ship had disappeared, not destroyed, not attacked, just gone, removed from space like it had never existed. J1 became famous, not a hero, something else. Scientists studied the Tarantula hawk wasp. They looked at every detail, every part of its biology, how it hunted, how it survived. The small insect became more than just a creature. It became a message. Humanity was different. Alien civilizations began to change their plans. Some stopped exploring. Some built bigger defenses. Some simply watched and waited. The universe looked at humans differently now. Jae-hwan sat in his research room. The small container with the Tarantula hawk wasp sat on his desk. So simple, so small, yet it had changed everything. Dae-sung brought him a report. Alien communications were full of fear, full of confusion, full of something else. Respect. Humans had shown something fundamental about life. Survival is not always gentle. Sometimes survival means being more brutal than your enemies, and humanity was very good at surviving. The Tarantula hawk wasp continued to move in its container, calm, waiting, unaware that it had just rewritten the rules of galactic interaction. Years passed. Jae-hwan became an old man. The Tarantula hawk wasp remained in its container, a reminder of that moment when everything changed. Humanity learned something important. Sometimes being different is more powerful than being strong. The galaxy had changed. Alien civilizations kept their distance. They watched humans. They studied humans, but they did not come close. One day, a young scientist visited Jae-hwan. Her name was Minji. She had heard the story many times. The story of how a small insect changed everything. "Tell me what happened," she said. Jae-hwan smiled. He pointed to the container with the Tarantula hawk wasp. "Life is not always kind," he said. "Sometimes survival means being more than just strong. Sometimes survival means being willing to do things others cannot understand." The small wasp continued to move in its container, calm, waiting. Alien ships remained far away from human space. They remembered the lesson. Humans were different. Humans survived in ways no one could predict. Minji looked at the wasp. So small, so simple. "One insect changed everything?" she asked. Jae-hwan nodded. "The universe is a big place, full of strange things, full of life that does whatever it takes to survive." Humanity had shown its true nature, not through big weapons, not through fancy technology, but through a small insect that showed how brutal life could be. Outside, stars continued to shine. Space continued to move. The universe kept spinning.